The Mountain That Loved a Bird by Alice McLerran. Pictures by Eric Carle. There once was a mountain made of bare stone, standing all alone in the desert plain, with no plant or animal or insect living there. The sun warmed the mountain and the wind chilled it, and the touch of rain or snow would come as well. All day and all night the mountain looked only at the sky, watching for the movement across the billowing clouds. The mountain knew the path of the sun by day and the course of the moon by night. On clear nights, the mountain watched the slow wheeling of the far-off stars, and there was nothing more to see. But then one day a small bird appeared. She flew in a circle above the mountain, then landed on the ledge to rest and preen her feathers. The mountain felt the dry grasp of her tiny claws on the ledge. It felt the softness of her feathered body as she sheltered herself against its side. The mountain was amazed, for nothing like this had ever come to it from the sky before. "Who are you? What is your name?" "I am a bird. My name is Joy, and I come from distant lands where everything is green. Every spring I fly high into the air, looking for the best place to build my nest and raise my children. As soon as I have rested, I must continue my search." "I have never seen anything like you before," said the mountain. "Must you go on? Couldn't you just stay here?" Joy shook her head. "Birds are living things," she explained. "We must have food and water. Nothing grows here for me to eat. There are no streams from which I could drink." "If you cannot stay here, will you come back again someday?" asked the mountain. Joy thought for a while. "I fly long distances," she said. "I have rested on many mountains. No other mountain has ever cared whether I came or went, and I should like to return to you, but I could only do so in the spring before I build my nest, and because you are so far from food and water, I could only stay a few hours." "I've never seen anything like you before," repeated the mountain. "Even if it were only a few hours, it would make me very happy to see you." "There is one more thing you should know," said Joy. "Mountains last forever, but birds do not. Even if I visit you every spring for the rest of my life, it might only be a few visits. Birds do not live very many years." Joy sat very still, nestled against the side of the mountain. Then she began to sing a gentle bell-like song, the first music the mountain had ever heard. When she finished her song, she said, "Because no mountain has ever before cared whether I came or went, I will make you a promise. Every spring of my life, I will return to greet you and sing to you. And then I will have a daughter and name her Joy, and she will do the same. And we will continue to have daughters named Joy, who will return to your mountain. Now I must go, for it is a long way to the lands that have food and water for me. Goodbye until next year." She soared off, and her wings disappeared into the sun. Every year, when spring came again, a small bird flew to the mountain, singing, "I am Joy, and I have come to greet you." And for a few hours, the birds would fly above the mountain or nestle against its side, singing. And at the end of each visit, the mountain would always ask, "Isn't there some way you could stay?" And Joy always answered, "No, but I will return next year." Each year the mountain looked forward more and more to Joy's visits, and each year it grew harder and harder to watch her go. 99 springs came and went in this way, and on the 100th spring the mountain once more asked, "Isn't there some way you could stay?" The mountain watched as she disappeared into the sky, and suddenly its heart broke. The hard stone cracked, and from the deepest part of the mountain, tears gushed forth and rolled down the mountainside into a stream. The next spring a small bird appeared, singing, "I am Joy, and I have come to greet you." This time the mountain did not reply. It only wept, thinking of how soon she would have to leave, and of all the long months before she would come again. Joy rested on her ledge and looked at the stream of tears. Then she flew above the mountain and sang as she always had. When it was time for her to go, the mountain still wept. When the next spring came, Joy returned, carrying in her beak a small seed. The mountain still wept a stream of tears. Joy carefully tucked the seed into a crack in the hard stone, close to the stream so that it would stay moist, and then she flew above the mountain and sang to it. Seeing that the mountain was still unable to speak, she flew away once more. During the weeks that followed, the seed in the crack of the rock began to send down tiny roots. The roots reached into the hard stone and spread into yet smaller cracks, breaking through the hardness. As the roots found water in the cracks and drew food from the softening stone, a shoot rose from the seed into the sunlight and unfolded tiny green leaves. The mountain, however, was still deep in sorrow and tears. It did not notice a plant so small. The next spring, Joy brought another seed, and another the spring after. She placed each one in a protected place near the stream of tears and sang to the mountain while the mountain still wept. Years passed in this way, the roots of new plants softening the stone near the stream of tears. As softened stone turned to soil, moss began to grow in corners, and grasses and little flowering plants sprouted in the hollows near the stream. Tiny insects, carried to the mountain by the winds, scurried among the leaves. Meanwhile, the roots of the very first seed went deeper and deeper into the heart of the mountain. Above the ground, what had started as a tiny shoot was growing into the trunk of a young tree, with branches holding green leaves out to the sun. And at last the mountain felt the roots reaching down like gentle fingers, filling and healing the cracks in its hearts. Sorrow faded away, and the mountain began to notice the changes that had been taking place. Seeing and feeling so many wonderful new things, the mountain's tears changed to tears of happiness. Each year, Joy returned, bringing another seed. Each year, more streams ran laughing down the mountainside, and the ground, watered by the new streams, grew green with trees and other plants. Now the mountain no longer wept with sorrow. It began to ask once more, "Isn't there some way you could stay?" But Joy still answered, "No, I will return next year." More years passed, and the streams carried life farther into the plain surrounding the mountain until finally, as far as the mountain could see, everything was green. From lands beyond the horizon, small animals began to come to the mountain. Watching these living things find food and shelter on its slopes, the mountain suddenly felt a surge of hope. Opening its deepest heart to the roots of the trees, it offered them all its strength. And the trees stretched their branches yet higher toward the sky, and hope ran like a song from the heart of the mountain into every tree leaf. And sure enough, when the next spring came, Joy flew to the mountain, carrying not a seed, but a slender twig. Straight to the tallest tree on the mountain she flew, to the tree that had grown from the very first seed. She placed the twig on the branch in which she would build her nest. "I am Joy, and I have come to stay." What lessons can you learn from Joy the bird and the weeping mountain? The end.